Welcome to another edition of Reading with Rockfish. I'm Sarah Rockfish, or SL Rockfish. I like SL. Okay, I'm going to stick with SL because it's my TikTok name and then it's my YouTube name and it's easier than writing Sarah. So, welcome. So glad to see you. So happy to see you. Look, we were released. We got to go out, so I went and got a haircut. So I can see now, and my head feels so much lighter. Woo, I'm almost lightheaded. So glad you could join us. We're on day 2,912 of stay at home, or maybe if you live in a state where they're releasing things now. In my state, we are allowed to go get a haircut. Well, in the state that we are allowed, but then the city said no, and then the mayor said yes. So before anyone changes their mind, I went and got a haircut. And I gotta tell you, people had on their masks. They were 6 feet away from each other. The stylists were very kind. They all had on masks, and it worked really well. So it gives me hope that we're going to get through this, and we're going to get people free a little more, and people are going to get back to normal. And fingers crossed it happens soon for everyone, and that we never have to go back to having to stay home. Maybe we can figure this all out if we all work together. Okay? So I'm glad to see you. That's my little editorial comment. Hope that you get to go outside. I know where I live, it's been raining for 3 days. I feel like I'm going to have to build an ark if it doesn't end soon. That would be a good story. But that would be for another day. But today got me thinking, rain, classically stuck at home, that I should read some classic stories. This is a book from when I was a kid, like 1,000 years ago. I used to read these Collier's Junior Classics. How many of you have ever had those? Look at the young folks shelf of books. I was a young folk. My parents had these, and then right above them they had a whole set of encyclopedias. Itchy nose. For those of you that don't remember, encyclopedias, or maybe you never got to see one, an encyclopedia was a book of knowledge that went through the letters A to B, and we had, I think, 28 books, and they were big and heavy. And it was before internet. You had to open up the book and try to figure out where your stuff was, and it went alphabetical. So this was underneath it. I think there were salesmen that went around the neighborhood. This was before Amazon, where they came to you, knocked on your door, and said, "Hello, could I interest you in a set of encyclopedias? Would you like your children to be smart?" And my parents were like, "Yeah, we want our kids to be smart." So they bought the encyclopedias, and they stood right underneath our phone, which was mounted in the wall when we were kids. You couldn't go anywhere because there was only 5 feet of cord, so you're like, whoop, over here or over there. But we got to read these all the time. This was our big book collection. And I have some of them. I found them because, I was digging around the old house, and we have a whole set. I'm so excited. So, kicking it old school, thought today I'd read Red Riding Hood. I know, you think you know the story of Red Riding Hood, but do you really? Because I had forgotten. Come on, I'll show you. It's by the Brothers Grimm, who were, if the name suits anyone, it's them, Grimm. Grimm means sad and serious. This was translated from German into English, so maybe some things got lost in translation, but this is the story about listening to your parents. And I'm going to stop occasionally to tell you just how different stories are today. Come on, I'll show you. Once upon a time, there she is, Little Red. Once upon a time, there was a sweet little maiden who was loved by all who knew her, but she was especially dear to her grandmother, who did not know how to make enough of the child. Well, that's an odd thing to say, did not know how to make enough of the child. That means she loved her to smithereens. Once she gave her a little red velvet cloak. It was so becoming, and she liked it so much that she would never wear anything else, so she got the name of Red Riding Hood. That's how she got her name. That is beautiful. Okay, one day her mother said to her, "Come here, Red Riding Hood. Take this cake and bottle of wine to grandmother. She is weak and ill, and they will do her good. Go quickly before it gets hot. And don't loiter by the way, or run, or you will fall down and break the bottle, and there will be no wine for grandmother. When you get there, don't forget to say good morning prettily, without staring about you. I will do just as you told me, Red Riding Hood promised her mother. Now, I'm going to stop right here. How many of you parents and how many of you kids think that your parents are going to give you a bottle of wine to go take to grandma because she's not feeling good? Not nowadays. Look at, she's got a bottle of wine in there, and some food, so grandma can feel better. Now, today, there'd be trouble. There'd be somebody calling, hey, there's a kid walking with a bottle of wine. But no, back in the day, Little Red, taking some wine to grandma. Her grandmother lived away in the wood, a good half-hour from the village. She has to walk a half-hour to her grandma's house. Oh my goodness, how many of you would do that on your own? When she got to the woods, she met a wolf, but Red Riding Hood did not know what a wicked animal he was, so she was not afraid of him a bit. She's not afraid of the wolf. Good morning, Red Riding Hood, he said. Good morning, Wolf, she answered. Whither away so early, Red Riding Hood? Whither away so early? That's kind of like, hey, where are you going? To grandmother's. Not a lot of illustrations, so I apologize. What have you got in your basket? Cake and wine. We baked yesterday, so I'm taking cake to grandmother. She wants something to make her well. Where does your grandmother live, Red Riding Hood? A good quarter of an hour farther into the wood. Her house stands under 3 big oak trees near a hedge of nuts which you must know, said Red Riding Hood. The wolf thought, this tender little creature will be a plump morsel. She will be nicer than the old woman. I must be cunning and snap them both up. He's going to make a plan to eat her. This is why you don't let your kids walk too far away. And Red, she gives away everything. She tells the wolf, oh yeah, she lives down there. You might as well just put a big arrow. Grandma's here. Grandma's here. She didn't know. He walked along with Red Riding Hood for a while. Then he said, look at the pretty flowers, Red Riding Hood. Why don't you look about you? I don't believe you even hear the bird's song. You are just as solemn as if you were going to school. Everything else is so gay out here in the woods. Red Riding Hood raised her eyes, and when she saw the sunlight dancing through the trees... Wait, you want some sunlight? Yay, she saw some sunlight dancing through the trees and all the bright flowers. She thought, I'm sure grandmother would be pleased if I took her a bunch of fresh flowers. It is still quite early. I shall have plenty of time to pick them. So she left the path and wandered off among the trees to pick the flowers. Each time she picked one, she always saw another one that was prettier and it was farther on. So she went deeper and deeper into the forest. Is she listening to her mom's advice? No, no, no. In the meantime, the wolf went straight off to the grandmother's cottage and knocked at the door. Who is there? Red Riding Hood bringing you cake and some wine. Open the door. Now look, they got an exclamation point. Do you think that Red would yell at Grandma? No. And a wolf would have to raise his voice so. But he did it. 'Cause here comes Grandma. Lift the latch, called out the old woman. I'm too weak to get up. The wolf lifted the latch and the door sprang open. He went straight in and up to the bed without saying a word and ate the poor old woman. Oh! He ate Grandma. Then he put on her nightdress and nightcap and got into bed and drew the curtains. He ate Grandma. And then he put on her nightgown. I'm thinking it's a different nightgown, just so you know. There seems to be a sequence problem here. But got the nightgown on. Wow. Okay. Red Riding Hood ran about picking flowers till she could carry no more, and then she remembered her grandmother again. Did you ever get distracted and forget about things? So does Red. She was astonished when she got to the house to find the door open, and when she entered the room, everything seemed strange. She felt quite frightened, but she did not know why. Generally, I like coming to see grandmother so much, she thought. Good morning, grandmother, she cried, but she received no answer. Now, stop right there. She left with wine, hung around in the forest for a while, and it's still morning. So she must have left really, really early. Then she went up to bed and drew the curtain back. There lay her grandmother, but she had drawn her cap down over her face, and she looked very odd. Oh, grandmother, what big eyes you have, she said. The better to hear you with, my dear. Grandmother, what big ears you have. The better to hear you with, my dear. Grandmother, what big eyes you have. The better to see you with, my dear. I may have read that twice. I apologize. What big hands you have. Ooh, look at these. What big hands you have. The better to catch hold of you with, my dear. But grandmother, what big teeth you have. The better to eat you up with, my dear. Hardly had the wolf said this than he made a spring out of the bed and swallowed poor little Red Riding Hood. When the wolf had satisfied himself, he went back to bed, and he was soon snoring loudly. Here she sees him. Now he jumps out of bed and eats her. I do not remember that happening. Do you? This could be a very dangerous day for Red. Oh no. A huntsman, now I remember the huntsman, went past the house and thought, how loudly the old lady is snoring. I must see if there's anything the matter with her. Now, what a small neighborhood that you're going to walk into somebody's house because they're snoring. Because there'd be people walking into my house all the time because I snore. So he went into the house and up to the bed where he found the wolf fast asleep. Do I find you here, you old sinner, he said. Long enough have I sought you. Means he's been chasing that wolf for a while. He raised his gun to shoot when it just occurred to him that perhaps the wolf had eaten up the old lady and that she might still be saved. Wait a second. Grandma got eaten by the wolf. Red got eaten by the wolf. How are they going to be saved? And just how big is this wolf? Let's see. She still might be saved. So he took a knife and began to cut open the sleeping wolf. Stop again. How long is the wolf going to stay asleep if it's getting cut down the sun? At the first cut, he saw the little red cloak, and a few more slashes, the girl sprang out and cried, Oh, how frightened I was. It was so dark inside the wolf. Next, the old grandmother came out, alive but hardly able to breathe. Alive but hardly able to breathe? Come on, man. Okay. Red Riding Hood brought some big stones with which they filled the wolf, so that when he woke up and tried to spring away, the stones dragged him down and he fell down dead. They were all quite happy now. The huntsman skinned the wolf and took the skin home. The grandmother ate the cake and drank the wine which Red Riding Hood had brought, and soon she felt quite strong. Grandma just needed a little wine and cake. Red Riding Hood thought to herself, I will never again wander off into the forest as long as I live, when my mother forbids it. Okay, that's a totally different story for me. I don't know about you. I remember Grandma getting eaten. I don't remember Red getting eaten, but they cut the wolf from stem to stern, down his belly, got the two humans out, stuffed him up with rocks. He never woke up. I'm calling bluff. I know, this is an old story. Does it remind you of the other stories? You've seen Shrek. Little Red didn't have that happen to her, did she? Or have you seen a different movie? What was the other one? Hoodwinked, maybe. Different story. But the moral of the story is, what did Mom say before she let Red take a bottle of wine, some cake, and walk for a half hour? She said, do not wander. Don't get lost. Just go straight to Grandma's. But did Red listen? No, no, no. And then this is what happens. The wolf comes in, eats Grandma and Red, but as all good stories end, a happy ending. So I hope you liked it. It's a little scary if you're young at heart, but don't worry. Grandma and little Red, they survive. The wolf, not so good. But he didn't die in vain, because he made a nice coat for the huntsman or the hunter. And Red and Grandma got better. She had a little wine and cake, and Red learned a lesson. Now, I hope you enjoyed the tale. I'm sorry that it wasn't illustrated, but I hope you had fun listening. Thank you. See you. Peace.